I'm the youth collaboration coordinator, and so part of my job, I work with a youth-led advocacy group called the Baltimore City Youth Action Board. And so some of the things they work on, so they have their own website specifically dedicated to resources for homeless youth. They do a lot of advocacy in DC and Annapolis, and also in my own, in the other 50% of my job, I also go out to a wide array of organizations, whether it's on workforce development days to bring resources to young people, but also assist them with any needs that they have. So like whether that's housing, whether that's getting access to medical care, whether that's getting access to public benefits. I just also try to provide that service to the community as half my job, and the other half of my job is working with the youth action.
And I am the workforce paralegal, which means I work with youth who are involved in job training programs. The main thing that I do is I engage with youth through clinics, legal clinics. So the HYI team serves youth in 2 youth centers. We call them the YO centers, youth opportunity centers. One is in East Baltimore, the other is on the west side. And we have clinics there every other week.
Mm-hmm.
And we provide free legal services to youth, primarily record expungement.
Okay. With it being in Baltimore, what is the state of youth homelessness? And I know homelessness can be broad, so we can even include just housing insecurity or overcrowding, things of that nature.
Slide it right over to you.
Yeah, I think it's a problem, and it's especially a problem because we don't really have many resources that are focused on youth who are unhoused. I think right now we could count the amount of youth-oriented shelters. There is one that we work with closely at Yo East. It's called The Nest, and they've been in operation for a while, and they've really kind of been an outlet for youth when there aren't many other places they can go. And I also think the other problem is that the city doesn't really, or we don't hear the statistics from the city that often about how big of a problem homelessness is in general, but particularly youth homelessness. We don't really have conversations about it. And when you have juveniles being charged as adults, that puts huge limitations on access they can have to housing,
Mm-hmm.
or even where they can go as far as wanting to pursue an education or a career, or really moving forward in any way.
Or we can also think about the Supreme Court law passing that just happened, where essentially now you can be cited for just being homeless in the wrong area, and then if you don't pay the citations, you actually can get a criminal warrant that gets you sent to jail, which once again gets you involved with the criminal justice system,
Mm-hmm.
which then again makes it to where you can't even apply to rent an apartment. So a lot of young people, especially if that gets enacted in Baltimore City, let's just say all across the country, what are they going to do? There's already a limit on their future. You're placing another limit in a way.
In light of the grants pass ruling, I would like to see Baltimore City specifically respond to that by maybe considering passing legislation that would say we will not criminalize homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
Even though recently we've seen the city respond in opposite ways. But that's my hope. I would also love to see youth lead any advocacy around homelessness, because as Eddie was saying, they have not been in the rooms or the conversations when they vitally need to be. And I think related to something that we really work with as an organization is I would love to see the legislature continue to revisit some of these sentencing guidelines, because for lots of the offenses that are eligible for expungement. Even when a charge is eligible, that can have an extremely long wait period.
I know for me, sometimes like you don't know what you don't know, so you can't ask the questions that you don't know. How do you make sure that, that the youth are asking questions and that they are able to advocate for themselves, but in a way that, you're not necessarily trying to like feed them lines or manipulate them into thinking a certain way, but just trying to help them understand like, hey, these are things that you're going through. Maybe you should talk about it. Maybe you can make a change, or at least help someone else make a change.
Yeah, well, what I've learned, especially at our clinics, that I always try to do is actually ask youth themselves questions about what they are going through, about their lives, and to really make them feel comfortable sharing their experience and letting them know that that's valuable, and that people are here to not just listen to them, to feel sorry for them, but to actually build solutions with them. So I think really making youth feel like their voices and their perspectives are valued, I think that's a great beginning. And I think that just starts by asking them, just what are their struggles, or what are their dreams, or what are they going through?
Man, I love this question because I've always been a proponent of give them the information so that they can make informed decisions about what to do. So one of the things that I do is I always make sure that they have all the keys before they go into whatever they're doing. And when they get in there, they can make a decision about how they want to, let's just say, even within advocacy, right? Giving them the information about what is a policy, what is a law, what is a bill, how can you make your own, how can you support someone else's, how do you do a testimonial, giving them all of that information so that once they have all of that, they can make an informed decision about what advocacy they want to do, how they want to go about doing that advocacy, who to communicate with. But instead of, just leaving them there and going like, hey, do this, or having them just follow behind a bunch of other organizations doing their own thing where they're hopping on their agenda, but they haven't been able to build something of their own. So I think that's the key, but a lot of times it doesn't happen. So we're the Homeless Youth Initiative team. It's me, Phillip. You didn't see your dear Ingrid yet, but you probably will. Just know that we're awesome. We always work with the young people. We're the best team. We're out.
All right.